recording.
Okay, so welcome. Thanks for being a guest on my interview. And our topic that we're talking about today is dealing with procrastination. So, but the first point that I want to make about dealing with procrastination was defining procrastination. So, procrastination is basically defined as saying you're going to do something or making a commitment, but not honoring the commitment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're welcome. And thanks for having me on. And I'm happy to be on with you today, Chris. And procrastination is one of those things in life that as I like to say, is one of those factors that is tugging at our emergency brake on a regular basis when we get caught up in a mindset of procrastinating. It's very normal. It's very common. It happens to everybody. It's more of, how we deal with it.
Yep, and that comes to my next point, which is the effects of procrastination. So there are actually three effects that I want to touch on, and they are mental, emotional, and physical. So for me personally, when I procrastinate on something, like, for example, writing my first poetry book, I wanted to publish a book, prove to myself that I have what it takes to publish a book. So I've been working on it for a while, for about a year. And I've just been I've been actually dealt with a lot of procrastination about, publishing this book because, it costs money to really publish a book. I have to come up with a title and a cover for how I want to look, and, formatting the each page, each poem. And then, when I finally had everything together, it was just like, it's just a matter of me doing, the publishing and, looking for the resources. But I put it off for so long because I had so many different responsibilities, so many different things going on in my life. Even though when I had free time and I knew I could be creating and publishing and everything, I just never really felt like doing it. So yeah, that goes back to the mental part. When you procrastinate, you do something based on how you feel. So,
well, and I think that there's a few categories of procrastination that I find that I've observed in my own life and in other people's, or reasons why we procrastinate. To give you some of my feedback on those, it's fears. Often we procrastinate because of fears that we have. And that can range from fear from putting ourselves, or a fear of putting ourselves out there, to fear we're going to fail, and fear we're going to be judged. So we tend to, when we have that mindset, we could put things off. Another one could be, just a procrastinate because we're afraid to get into action, or not even so much afraid as we're not willing to put ourselves into action. And then a third one, which sounds relevant to what you're describing, is we procrastinate because we're waiting. We're telling ourselves a story like there's a better time ahead, like I'll be more ready, or the work will be more perfect, or tomorrow or next week or whenever is a better time. And those are stories we're telling ourselves in our head. Sometimes it's because we say things like we're too busy. So those are the three categories when it comes to mental procrastination: fears, a lack of willingness to get into action, and the story that we tell ourselves like it'll be better at a later date, which is not necessarily the true.
Yeah, and I actually agree with what you're saying. And to just to back up what you're saying, that I actually experienced that recently with writing and writing new poetry and going out and just doing research for new clients for design projects, even doing this video, because I did have the fear of well, what if I'm not understood clearly? What if you can't hear me? What if I have to repeat myself a million times or whatever? What am I going to do? Do I just shut down? Do I become angry or offended? Do I give up? All these different voices in my head telling me all these different things. So that's part of the mental and emotional part of those effects of procrastination that I deal with personally. So then there's the physical side, where it's just like you feel anxious, you feel, you have a lot of, like your temperature starts to rise, your mind's always, going in different directions. You feel tired, you don't really want to do anything, get out of bed, maybe you want to just sleep all day. I don't know, just all kinds of things are happening where you just feel physically tired. Maybe you tense up, a lot of tension comes when it comes to fear. So the fear is the mental part, and an emotional part is, just, the thoughts that are coming through your mind and anxiety. And then the physical side is just tense up and you don't really take any action on anything. So that concludes my second point for procrastination, that I deal with personally. And that kind of is in alignment with what you're saying too, when it comes to how procrastination affects you. So we're going to move into my third point, which is techniques for dealing with procrastination. And three of my personal techniques that I want to share on this video call for dealing with procrastination would be first, meditation, because meditation deals with like the mental aspect of how you think and how you just calm yourself down and get into a place of being in the present moment. Just being at one with how you feel, self-acceptance. That's actually a work in progress for me, because that's something I'm still learning how to do for myself on that level. And then let's see, the second point would be recreational activities. Maybe you're someone who likes to play sports all the time, or exercise, going to the gym, or maybe going for a walk. For me, being out in nature, that's something that I really enjoy. Just being outdoors, breathing, going for walks, just going out places, going to different group events, and then just, sharing my experience with other like-minded individuals. So that's something that I do also. And then after that, I would say writing and journaling is another thing that can help with dealing with procrastination, because when you write something down, you're putting your ideas and emotions, you're putting everything on paper. So it's not, held up inside you anymore. You're not, holding on to anything, because that's not really good for your health either. That can lead to more anxiety, more stress, more, a lot of different health problems that people face today. So that's another thing that, comes with procrastination.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that you're acknowledging some of the causes of your procrastination, and then talking about some of the things that you do to deal with it. And I personally don't meditate, but I know it helps. I know people who I know it helps tremendously. And I have my own form of meditation. I listen to music. I listen to things as I go on a walk. That's like a form of meditation for me. But I think that we also need to, just to add into what you said, Chris, is we need to accept and embrace and allow ourselves to, if we're having sluggish days, if we're having days where we're not feeling it, and not beat ourselves up. We have to give ourselves permission to have some moments where we're just not in the flow. And then also incentivize ourselves to do a little bit, and just not beat ourselves up over it. Like there might be, if you like to write, for example, and you find yourself, not just you, but others, if you find yourself procrastinating over writing, maybe you set a goal for yourself that you want to spend 30 minutes a day writing, or you want to write 1,000 words, because even accomplishing, or 500 words, even accomplishing just that is an achievement, is progress. And when you can do that, it's not a bad day. It's a good day. And then we tend to beat ourselves up less and less by just doing a little bit at a time, as opposed to procrastinating and continually putting it off.
Yeah, and I also find, listening to music does help me. So, it's also the type of music I listen to too. So I'm really into like hip hop music, R&B music, a lot of West Indian music, even meditation music. Also, puts me in a really good creative mode, and it puts me in a mood where I'm just uplifted. I don't feel as anxious when I'm listening to certain songs. Sometimes I find myself listening to what they're saying in their music, and I just get an idea to write something down. And then that's kind of where a lot of my poetry is inspired from listening to other people's music and embracing different cultures of music. And I often do sometimes do beat myself up whenever, I procrastinate or whenever things don't work out. An example of such an event would be, I would say Friday, I got a phone call from an organization about going to an event that they invited me to for like voting or whatever it was. And they mentioned something about, the whole Black Lives Matter campaign, that thing, where a lot of people of color are being harassed by law enforcement. They're being incarcerated. It's just, not really a good look, in today's society. And I recently I designed a T-shirt that was inspired by the Black Lives Matter campaign, their movement. So I designed, that T-shirt, and I brought it with me to the event when I went to meet with the manager of the place that invited me to come out there. So I went there. We had a discussion about, what I do and what they're looking for. And then they asked me to, tell them about myself. And I mentioned the things that I was really interested in and, where I came from and a lot of different things. So it's just like, in that moment, I could have dealt with procrastination because, I'm meeting someone for the first time who I don't really know. I'm putting myself out there and being vulnerable, something I'm not really personally used to doing. And for different reasons. And there's also the fear of not being accepted, rejection, things not working out, which in my case, they did not work out as planned. So I kind of was really hard on myself about that. But after the fact, I went into nature, went for a walk, and I started to feel better because I was able to, ask myself questions where I was able, that was able to reflect upon, and that helped me to deal with that situation. So that really helps too. And also, listening to music kind of calms me down too. So that's something else that I really like to deal with. So that kind of wraps up the third point, my third point for techniques for dealing with procrastination. And then my fourth point would be self-care, such as keeping your word to yourself. And, whenever you say you're going to do something, to do it and not just put it off because you're afraid it might not, look good, or someone might not approve, or they might laugh at you, or they may not accept you. I mean, I've dealt with that a lot growing up. So that was one of the things I wanted to, touch upon for self-care, keeping your word to yourself. When you say you want to, exercise, then just take time out of your day to exercise. Or if you want to read a book, like I did a few minutes ago, I read a book, I have this book called Finding Your Soul Signature, and it's broken up into different chapters, based on, day 1 or day 2, day 3. And then it goes into like step-by-steps for how to deal with things like fear, anxiety, self-judgment, all kinds of different things. So that kind of like paints a better picture for how to really deal with things like procrastination.
Yeah, excuse me. Absolutely. Self-care is vital and important all around in all aspects of our life. And the more we do and focus on self-care, I always say that there's such a thing as a good selfish, and really strong, diligent self-care is incredibly important. And when we're diligent in our self-care and we do things that allow ourselves to recover, refresh, when we do things to allow ourselves to grow, then it helps. There's an offshoot or an after effect of things like procrastination. We're not as hard on ourselves. Procrastination, I really think, is a result often of a lot of things that we're conditioned to believe and feel in our lives. So when we're really working on ourselves and understanding where our feelings are coming from, and we're focused not on comparing ourselves to others or trying to keep up with the Joneses or whatever else things in society and people expect from us, and we just focus on doing our best and putting our best output out there, we're not going to procrastinate as much. And that's all a result of good, strong self-care.
Mm-hmm. And then my next point would be self-discipline. So, um, no, I feel like, self-discipline is something that has to be really developed. So, from an early age. So, I know that like most kids like to just play around and, just be free and do whatever they want. But as they get older, and their parents are telling them to do their homework or, read or study, it takes discipline to be able to study and be focused on what's being said. But I understand from experience that a lot of the subjects that are being taught in school today weren't really all that interesting to me. So that was kind of the reason why I've had such a difficult time really being really engaged in what was being taught, because it wasn't really stimulating me creatively, or mentally or emotionally. I just didn't feel much of a connection to what the teachers were teaching me. So, but I did my best because I felt like, that's what I had to do in order to gain the approval of, my parents or the teachers, and, be able to graduate and move on to the next stage in my academic experience.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a great call out, the self-discipline one. It doesn't get quite as much focus as some of these other components, but it's important. I will say, I do believe that, in my experience in my life and what I've seen, I think discipline and self-discipline is best when it's, seeded and grown and nurtured from within. And that's why, when you see children or younger people, for example, when they're told what to do, and even adults for that matter, when we're told what to do, it can be difficult. We could struggle. We have that tendency to want to push back and not always conform to what we're being told to do. And that's why I think it's really important, to the best of our abilities, to really develop our own self-discipline. I think that motivation and discipline are best when they come from within ourselves, not from outside sources. I don't want to have to go to listen to a motivational speaker. I like to listen to inspiring. I like to be inspired by other people, but I don't want to be motivated by other people. I want to be motivated within myself. And same thing with discipline. I want to teach myself, these are the things I need to do. These are the beliefs that I should have to live and have a disciplined life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, I agree 100% because I've had a lot of mentors and people and influences in my life who would always, try to tell me things because they want the best for me, but it's really the best for them because, it's coming from inside them, not coming from me. So, I mean, an example would be I've had a friend, but he's also a mentor to me um, who told me, or suggested that I go to a job fair or whatever, and to go to look for employment. But it turns out that when I got there, because he was talking about how great this place was, how great of an opportunity it was, and come to find out, I get there, he doesn't show up, and the job fair wasn't really a job fair at all. It was actually a fair for job training. So, I thought to myself, well, I feel like I've just been shortchanged because I've allowed this other person, even though their intentions were good and they were looking out for me, to steer me in the wrong direction because, not only did I want their approval of what I was doing, and I didn't really want to have that, conflict, between me and them, because I looked to him as a mentor, an older influential person who's supposed to set a better example for me because I'm a little bit younger than he is. So, being misled like that wasn't really a good experience. And we talked about that. He apologized, and we kind of moved on from there. But then I thought to myself, well, it's better if I just listen to myself and take advice from other people. I mean, even if what they're saying is maybe have their benefits, to my life, and it may be some good advice that could help me in my development as a person and as a professional or whatever. That people can steer you wrong. They don't always have the best interests at heart because they have their own agenda. So that's what I took from that experience. But listening to my own voice, that was something that has to be developed too. So that's kind of what I meant by self-discipline, because I had to really discipline myself to really focus in on what I'm feeling, that inner voice inside of me that really wants to be seen and heard and understood and acknowledged.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no question. I mean, I think mentors are great, and we have so many ways of having mentorship from afar now online. It's all with all that's available on podcasts and videos and audiobooks and everything else online and social media. We can learn from so many people without actually physically like being next to them or even knowing them personally. So I like to absorb and believe we need to absorb from a lot of different sources and people, but we don't need to take our marching orders from one person only. And more importantly, better said, to your point, we should be mindful of where it's coming from and what the intentions are. I like to look for, find, and seek out people who I know have really good intentions with what they're putting out there, that they're just trying to help and serve others and be generous, as opposed to somebody who might have an ulterior motive of some sort that might be, and it might not make them even a bad person, but it's good to be mindful of that, like to your point, of where it's coming from and who is really serving others in a really generous capacity.
Mm-hmm. And then the next thing I want to get into is patience, because whenever you're dealing with procrastination, it leads into you being hard on yourself for not keeping your word, not keeping your commitment. And that's also something I want to talk about. This book I read called The Four Agreements, where the author Don Miguel Ruiz was talking about keep being impeccable with your word, saying what you mean and meaning what you say. So keeping your word to yourself and others is really important, because if you don't do that, then that can lead to fractured relationships. Not only with someone else, but within yourself too, because you tend to not trust yourself very well, and you begin to second guess yourself and start to feel really bad about every decision you make or every decision you don't make. So being patient with yourself, in the process is something that I have to still learn how to do, because when I'm not patient with myself, I'm really hard on myself. And also, you don't really do your best work whenever you're not patient with yourself and you're trying to rush the process.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think part of this falls under self-care and allowing yourself and giving yourself, permission to, take some time to learn and grow and not be extra hard on yourself. And sometimes when we push or rush something, we don't always produce the best result. So patience and allowing yourself to that freedom to be patient and not live up to. I know I've mentioned this several times already, but not doing stuff that's at the behest or of what other people might expect, family, friends, peers, but do it at your pace. What's good for you, and what you believe in. As opposed, a lot of times we do things in life that are because we're trying to live up to the expectations of what others might want. And sometimes that leads to us rushing it. Well, let's take our time and be patient with our growth, with our output, with our productivity.
Mm-hmm. And back to what you were saying about not living up to other people's expectations, kind of reminds me of one of my favorite YouTubers. His name is Ralph Smart. And what he talks about is letting go of society's expectations and just letting things like love and patience guide you into becoming the best version of yourself. So he's a really big inspiration to me, because I like to listen to his videos, and that's kind of one of the things that kind of motivates me to start my own YouTube channel. Also, the weekly video calls from the group that you lead every Tuesday. Going to different events like Boston Speaks, We Work. What else? There's another place I go to. It's called, I'm trying to remember the name of it. It'll come to me, but just all these different events and just meeting different people, getting myself, out and about and meeting new, making new connections. So, also it helps that when you can define your personal values and not allowing other people to give you values, and, just letting what they think you should, follow and believe, dictate, how you should live your life. Because when you do that, that also leads into procrastination, because you're not really functioning on based off of your own values. You're functioning based off of somebody else's values, which is a very artificial way of thinking. Because, from my personal experience, I've had a lot of people tell me what they think I should be doing, or what they think, I could be doing, or where I should go, or how I should live. And that led to a lot of procrastination, missed opportunities, just a lot of, me being hard on myself for, being indecisive, not really being opening myself up to what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, understanding and knowing myself as a person. And just different things, knowing my own style of, creating artwork, or, writing poetry, whatever it is that I'm into, just knowing the things that I'm most interested in and passionate about. I begin to procrastinate on, defining that, because I was just so caught up in what others were thinking and trying to live up to their expectations for my life. So that really, led to me, being impatient with myself. And, from that point on, I've made the commitment to being more patient with myself and not allowing those external influences to have that kind of damaging effect on me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's good to see that progress in yourself, isn't it?
Yes.
And also, I would say the different sources of learning that you get when you join a group call, when you go to events at different venues, when you're putting yourself around and connecting yourself with other people to get good ideas, inspiration, flow, and just energy. Energy to learn, energy on the topics that interest you, which of course feeds new ideas. So, when we do things like that, Chris, one of the last points I would say about procrastination is when you come from a place of abundance and, of course, surrounding yourself with the right people and coming from a place of abundance instead of a place of scarcity, that scarcity mindset, people are, when they're in that, they're going to procrastinate a lot more for a whole variety of reasons, most of which we've talked about, many of which we've already talked about. But when you come from a place of abundance, procrastination will hardly rear its head. It just, if you're appreciative and grateful for what you have and making the most of opportunities to connect and surround yourself with the right people, and you'll be coming from a place of abundance, and procrastination will be much less of an issue in your life. That goes for anybody, myself included.
Yeah, that actually inspires me for two reasons. So the first reason is my next video, I want the topic to be abundant mindset versus scarcity mindset, because those are two things that are really personal to me that I'm still dealing with in my life, and I want to be a source of inspiration for anyone else who's dealing with that thing. And then the second thing is what you had said reminded me of what my favorite YouTuber Ralph Smart talks about when he says something about, you have to put yourself in an environment that complements your own energy. So for example, if you're not the kind of person who likes to go out partying and going to clubs and just being around a lot of people, then it'll be better, and you're better if you go to a place like a support group, or going out into nature, maybe whatever you're interested in, whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. And then that leads into my next point, which is therapy, because I feel like therapy is really useful for procrastination, because you're putting yourself in a position where you can get all your information out to somebody who's not going to judge you. They're going to listen to you, hear you out, and support you in any way possible. So for me, and the things that I deal with when I see my therapist, I'm opening myself up to them, letting them know, how I'm feeling, things I'm doing, my accomplishments. And I'm getting a lot of useful feedback for how to move forward in my life and just take steps one at a time to overcome the most difficult situations, whether those situations may be creative, creative situations, professional situations, whatever the case is. That's what makes the therapy sessions really useful to me.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, I'm more of a believer in coaching than I am therapy, but I agree with you that when you have the third party objective outside person who can listen and offer feedback, guidance, support, and direction, that's really important. That's really helpful. And yeah, that person who's not super like a close, emotionally connected family member or friend, it does make a difference. I personally prefer the route of coaches as opposed to therapy, but I totally believe or agree with your concept and where you're going with that. That third party person can be a big help.
Yep. And then that leads into my next point, which is mindfulness. So mindfulness, meditation, any type of physical activity, like, maybe it's yoga, Tai Chi, or whatever you're into. Everybody's different. They have their own different way of dealing with things. But, for me, mindfulness, reading books on mindfulness, listening to podcasts that talk about mindfulness, meditation, just, allowing yourself to just be in the present moment. So all those things are very useful to, dealing with procrastination, just letting your mind just just be focused and centered in whatever you're thinking about and not judging what you're thinking about. Mm-hmm. So that also helps with procrastination. And then support groups. So any support groups that are available, you can reach out to them and they can support you in many different ways. So, and the best thing is they have support groups for different things, whether it's, for alcohol, drug use, depression, domestic violence, whatever it is, support groups are very useful.
Yeah, I agree. I think support groups can be very useful. And again, that kind of goes in line too with the whole notion of surrounding yourself with the right people. That can really help. And it's actually really critical. It's a must. So support groups are an outlet for that, for sure, and an option.
Yep. And then my last point would be, just rewarding yourself for taking small steps. Maybe there's a retreat that you want to go to. I mean, for me, I went on a meditation retreat a long time ago. It was a place called Peace Village. It's in upstate New York, and it's really amazing place. They have all kinds of it's just a really natural environment. There's not too much noise there, and people are really friendly. It was just a new experience for me, being able to just be there, go to their classes, and just meet all the really cool people there. So I'm actually, glad that I took that step to go out of my comfort zone and, be in that environment.
I like that, Chris. That's a great way to end too. I absolutely, totally agree. I love that. Good call out on your part about rewarding ourselves. And that's really critical. It's not anything about babying or overdoing it for ourselves. It's more of absolutely, we should do things that bring fulfillment, that bring reward, that bring accomplishment, a sense of accomplishment, and using those opportunities as like that motivates and inspire us. That's one way when I talk about like self-motivation, like I know that I want to get a certain feeling and appreciate and acknowledge myself when I've accomplished something really important or that meant something to me. So I agree. And when we do that, because we're talking about procrastination, when we do that, then we're less prone to procrastinate. So I love it.
Yep. And for me personally, one way that I like to reward myself is maybe, maybe I go walk in a certain direction. Maybe I go out into direction, go out into nature and just, you know, reward myself with just being in that moment. Or maybe I'll go out and buy something, like maybe I don't know, just going out to buy something to eat or whatever, or maybe buying a new book or something that I'm really interested in. You know, just little small things that I can do for myself to just, you know, reward myself on taking small steps to overcome my habits of procrastination. So, you know, that's really helpful because it encourages you to just do better and, you know, move forward, let you know that you're not being so hard on yourself. It's just an overall good habit to have, you know, to make yourself feel really, you know, empowered. And I feel like it's like a form of self-acceptance and, you know, a form of self-love when you can reward yourself for doing something that was challenging to you, or maybe not so challenging to you. You know, just rewarding yourself in general is a really a feeling of fulfillment.
Yes, it is. Exactly. And that's what we want. When we're fulfilled every day, when we do things to create fulfillment in our life every day, that's when we're at our highest achieving, most productive, and most impactful. So yeah, this has been great, Chris. I appreciate it. This is good insight. And I appreciate you having me on to share some of this back and forth and be part and share some of my input as well.
Oh, thanks. You're welcome. I'm really appreciative of you wanting to be a guest on this podcast and, you know, this video call. So I think it's going to help a lot of people, you know, when they can watch the video and gain any information and insight and inspiration from it. So, you know, that's, you know, my take on how I deal with procrastination, you know, whether it's in my creative process or just in my daily life in general. You know, I'm really appreciative of you just, you know, giving your input and being able to hear me out for, you know, how I deal with things. So you've been a real source of inspiration, you know, for me and for everyone else who watches the video. So I thank you, you know. And my last point is, you know, just something that I really want to just, you know, get out there. Is a very personal message that I want to share, you know, with whoever watches the video. And that would be to live purposefully, live powerfully, and feel original.
Beautiful message, Chris. I love it. Thanks again for having me be part of this, and keep it up. Keep putting stuff like this out into the universe through video, through audio, and just doing your work, connecting with others. And I think a lot of people will be inspired by you as well. So thanks again.
You're welcome. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.